beefy is a good word when you walk into it. It feels really solid, and like there's something kind of unusual about it in that sense.
Right.
That you're into something that seems strong.
Right. Well, and one of the stigmas with manufactured housing is always that it feels very flimsy. And what better way to prove to someone that it's not than to actually be able to walk in and see that it doesn't feel that way. This is not a mobile home. It's just manufactured in a factory.
Let's talk about manufactured housing just for a second. For a while, that's been often touted as an answer to affordable housing in particular, but housing needs in general. You could make things more uniform. Theoretically, you can make them a little bit cheaper, although you explained that that's a little bit more challenging, except for the time factor. But why do you think, and if you do at Methuen, I don't know that you do, that manufactured housing has a potential future? I mean, people have believed in that, hoped for that, but it's never really become a significant force in the marketplace. What do you guys see about that, and why might this kind of a system work when others haven't?
I think that what might give modular construction the edge this time around, because it's not a new idea at all. We've been experimenting with it for decades. I think that this time around, the benefits far outweigh, the newness of it. This type of construction leaves very little waste. And so when we're building in a factory, we can start setting dimensions to the standard lengths of things that they have. And so that we're developing less waste. And anything that is created as waste gets put back into the system. There isn't a big dumpster that all of this goes into, like on a regular job site. I think that people are looking for something that's a little more unique right now as well. We've been building the same way for forever. And this is an opportunity to try something a little different that is going to be more efficient and starts to tap into, again, the sustainable design aspects that people are really asking for now. So we eliminate the waste, we create a system that is more efficient with the space that you have. And another thing that's really interesting about this type of construction is that the carbon footprint is smaller. And this is all theoretical, but because people are going to the same place every day to work in a factory, they're not driving job trucks everywhere. We don't have as many car trips, vehicle miles traveled, for the people that are actually building these.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that
and,
at all.
So, most people are coming from within the local area of their factory, and they drive to work every day like any normal office person would. So we're not generating as much car CO2 either.
So where is this going to be actually deployed? Where are there plans and projects in place? I think there is one at least, where this kind of unit is going to be tried out on a larger scale. How big a scale is it? How many units can be put together and so on?
The project that we're working on right now is going to be in downtown Seattle. It's on Dexter Avenue, and we are looking at between 62 and 65 units right now on one very typical infill site in Seattle. We can build them as tall as 4 stories without any superstructure to them. So each of the units on those 4 stories can be the same. Once we get to 5 stories, then you start talking about unique unit construction in order to keep from crushing under the weight of the units above it. So we've been sticking to 4 stories of modular units, and we can line them up as long as a site would allow. What we're trying to do with this particular project is eliminate the double-loaded corridor of your typical apartment building and allowing light and air on at least 2 sides of every unit. So you now can open your door and your window and you can get cross ventilation, you get the sunlight coming in. We have shading devices that control the sun. But it doesn't feel like you're in an apartment building. It feels like you're in a really nice, very ventilated unit.
But this is it's a development aimed at the rental market, not at the purchasing market.
It is. These are all going to be apartments, all downtown apartments, and they're trying to target the workforce housing level of income, which here is 80 to 100, 110% of area median income.
So, and you know what the median income here is?
Off the top of my head, I don't.
I think it's in the $45,000 to $47,000 range.
Around
I think.
That, And,
I think that's right.
This is it's gonna attract singles, probably young professionals who are looking for something like this. It even is very attractive to older couples who are moving out of their larger home, want to get back downtown, want to be in something that's of a nicer size for 2 people. So, and that's another aspect of it that's going to be interesting, is that mix of ages and personality types. It's not going to be just all young people or all people with families. It's going to be very mixed.
Go back to stacking them up 4 high. How do you hook them together when you do that? Just what's the process of stacking them up? Do they just sit there?
Oh, no, they have to withstand the same amount of earthquake load that any other building does. So they're tied down to the concrete podium or garage that they're resting on, and it's an interesting stacking process that that interlocks 4 units at a time. So you set the bottom 2, and then you set 1 on top, and you make this sort of L connection, and then they sort of move diagonally through the building, making these sort of intricate connections. One of the ways is you use trap areas in the floor or in the ceiling to reach up and make structural connections. So that's how it all goes together. Those are all inspected as it's moved through so that everybody understands those connections have been made. So it's held together like any other building, it's just built differently.
Will the installation workforce, I'm imagining this in other places in the country, does that mean you have to have a specially trained workforce to do the installation, or could a sort of a general contractor bring his normal building crew and work with this kind of thing?
You really, it's not as unique a trait as it might sound. Some of the better modular manufacturers send out setting crews and teach the site contractors how to do this. They walk through the process, and once you've done it a couple of times, then you've figured out how to do it. And again, your site turns into more of an assembly line at that point as well too, because the units are coming on, you're making connections so that they're structurally connected, then you're making all your utility connections. And then if the siding didn't come on the units, you put the siding on, and really you leave, it's ready to go. These units came completely finished, so all of the appliances were here, all the finishes were here. It really just needed to be snapped together and plugged in.
At the site you're doing in Seattle, what are some of the other sustainability features that are going to be at that site? Since I know you're oh, that's my phone, but you're a specialist in sustainability in terms of site and locations and so on. What are some of the other things that you're doing in terms of that?
Well, what we like to do with every site that we work on is make sure that the orientation of the units makes sense with where the sun is, so that we're controlling our solar gain and we're gaining the ventilation that's necessary to the best that we can, given that we want to get as many units on there as possible. We also have a green roof system that's going to go on to the roof of most of the building, and we're going to use that as part of the insulation as well as part of our rainwater control. We're going to take all of that rainwater and then irrigate the courtyard in the center of the building with that. So we're reusing all of our rainwater. The materials that we're using recycled content materials where we can, as well as very durable materials so that we're not coming back in.